Distinguished mass media representatives, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded the 27th Russia-EU summit, and such meetings will always be significant because we can reach important agreements and because ordinary interaction and coordination take place, but the matters are quite of substance. Let me say that our consultations lasted 2 days. Yesterday we had an informal dinner, and today in the morning we had the formal discussions at the summit, at the talks. We had quite substantive and fruitful talks. Strategic nature of our partnership between the Russian side and the European side, all those member states of the European Union, is conspicuous in the context of the economic ties of ours. I'd like to say that the turnover of last year turned to be the highest, one of the highest in the history, surpassing $300 billion, which means our countries are recovering from the situation of 2008 and 2009, from the global downturn. The good stimulus was to develop the idea we had last year. I'm referring to the Partnership for Modernization initiative. As the coordinators have reported, there is a number of specific proposals, projects in high-tech fields, including the new technology clusters developed in our country, including Skolkovo as well. We are interested in having more entrepreneurs participating in these projects, and I hope they will have some competitive edges. At the summit, we analyzed the 4 roadmaps on shaping our 4 common spaces and work on the new basic agreement between Russia and the EU was carried out. An important topic has been the visa-free movement regime for our nationals. At present, our experts are in the phase of elaborating a set of measures to be taken by both parties to establish conditions necessary for the abolition of visas. I must be frank, we have made advances, but ahead of us we have huge work to do. Quite topical, unfortunately, is still Russia's accession to the WTO, because things could have been finalized earlier, but the process is being procrastinated and prolonged. We have set forth our positions, identified them, and we hope our European colleagues will understand us. We hope that our interests will be considered during settlement of a number of energy issues, including the implementation of the third energy package. We have exchanged opinions on the international agenda. We have continued the discussions that were started in Deauville during the G8 summit. We will jointly work to overcome the global economic differences. Problems will be getting ready for the new G20 summit in France, and we have compared notes as regards the main regional conflicts. We have talked South Africa, Middle East, and the Iranian nuclear program, and the Transnistria settlement, as well as other conflicts in Europe. It's noteworthy that our approaches concur or coincide or are close on the most of the items. We agreed to provide an additional impetus to the Middle East Quartet meetings, and we are supportive of holding a ministerial meeting of the Quartet as soon as possible. I'd like to thank once again my colleagues for their constructive manner of talks and for the issues that we have discussed in a trustworthy environment of friendship last night and today. And let me pass the word to them.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. President, thank you for your bringing us together in this historical city of Nizhny Novgorod in deep Russia. And I'm glad that we had the possibility of both experiencing the magic sunset over the Volga last evening and to have a substantial and successful summit today. This has been our third summit since the entry into force of the Lisbon Treaty. The EU-Russia relationship is enjoying its best dynamics for years, and we can build on a track record of strengthened trust and constructive dialogue. Our objective today was to follow up on commitments made last December in Brussels and also to advance a number of issues of common interests. President Medvedev gave a comprehensive overview of our discussion, so allow me to touch upon only a few points. First, modernization. This is an issue which is fully supported by the EU. President Barroso will go further in detail on the partnership of modernization. Modernization is a broad and diverse agenda. Promoting people-to-people contacts and mobility are central features in its social aspects, for instance, via visa-free travel. We are therefore pleased with the progress of negotiations on an agreement on a common steps approach for visa liberalization. Russia-WTO accession is another building block of modernization and of great strategic importance even for the EU. I welcome President Medvedev's personal commitment in making this happen, and I can confirm the EU political will to reach agreement on the outstanding issues. Respect for human rights is a deeply ingrained point of reference in our country's public opinions. Russia's record of implementing the universal principles of human rights is an important element shaping its European public reputation. Despite the personal engagements and initiative of the President, there are still strong concerns in our member states and among the European public about the situation of human rights. The upcoming elections in Russia in December and in March next year are going to be an issue of high interest in Europe. Respect for the international obligations and political pluralism will be key in this respect. I expressed my hope that Russia will cooperate with the Office of Democratic Institutions and Human Rights and early on extend to them an invitation to monitor these elections. Second, on the global economy. We exchange views on the economic situation in both Russia and the EU. And regarding the EU, our economy is clearly on the path of recovery. However, market tensions remain high, reflecting concerns about the situation in a number of countries. 3 countries, Greece, Portugal and Ireland, that have been under heavy market pressure are now under program jointly supported by the EU and the International Monetary Fund. At the same time, it is important to put things into perspective. The combined share of Greece, Ireland and Portugal is mere 6% of euro area GDP. Third, foreign policy and security. Our cooperation on crisis management is a positive feature in our bilateral relationship, but we both know that we still have a lot of unused potential. We agreed to generate new momentum by moving forward more decisively. We are aiming for a framework agreement on crisis management by the next summit, and that means before the end of this year. We had a good discussion on the strategic transformation taking place in Europe's southern neighborhood. I expressed my appreciation for the constructive role Russia and personally President Medvedev played in handling this rather complex affair. We have shared interests. It is in our common interest that the countries in the region move in the direction of more democracy and rule of law, social justice, and fair economic opportunities. On the Middle East peace process, we reconfirmed our shared view on the importance of the earliest resumption of talks between the Israelis and Palestinians. And we also called for a ministerial meeting of the quartet to be held as soon as possible. And on Libya, we are also aligned. Gaddafi must go. We need a process of democratic transition, an inclusive consultation process on a new constitution and elections. The Libyan people should decide on their leadership, and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Libya must be respected. Finally, on the regional issues on the European continent, I think we have an opportunity to achieve significant progress towards resolving the open issues in Moldova, Transnistria. Let me also recall the EU's position of continued support for the security, the stability, the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Georgia and the full implementation of the six-point agreement of August 2008, as well as the implementing measures. We have a shared concern over the risks related to the unresolved conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh, and we are equally interested in reducing the escalating tensions in that region. I expressed my appreciation to the President's efforts to move forward towards a solution confirmed the EU's commitment. Again, Mr. President, thank you for your hospitality and for your constructive approach on strengthening the strategic partnership between the EU and Russia. Thank you for your openness to find a solution for the ban on vegetables coming from the EU. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in Brussels for the next EU-Russia summit before the end of this year. No Volga there, but probably a small boat in a small river in a small country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Medvedev. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start also with a word of gratitude for the warm welcome we have received in this historic, beautiful city of Nizhny Novgorod. Alexander Pushkin, such a great, famous poet by Russia, whose life is closely associated with this city, said once, inspiration is needed in politics just as much as in poetry. And I think we got a good inspiration from the very positive atmosphere of this summit. In fact, it was a substantive and successful Russia-European Union summit, which was instrumental in bringing our strategic partnership forward. Let me just highlight a few points. First, our partnership for modernization is now delivering in practice. Our coordinators have reported on the progress made. Joint projects and activities are underway and boosting our modernization agenda, such as our European Union action supporting a Russia-wide judicial appeal system. The partnership is thus making a major mutually beneficial contribution, as do the 16 bilateral modernization partnerships which our member states have concluded with Russia. And this is backed up by concrete European funding. The EBRD and DIB, DIB just today agreed a memorandum of understanding with the VEB, the Russian Development Bank, to support partnership for modernization projects for a total of almost 2 billion euros. Clearly, this modernization must be broad-based to be successful. Transformation, we all agree, is not just about technology. The creative forces of society as a whole must be engaged. The rule of law, the protection of citizens' rights, a level playing field for businesses are indispensable. This is a shared commitment, both at international level in our partnership. We welcome the creation in March 2011 of an independent European Union-Russia civil society forum, and we have asked the Russian party to support it. It's important that they fulfill their role engaging the societies in these modernization efforts. We believe that strengthening the rule of law is not business as usual. It is very important for bringing Russia's and Europe's people closer together and also for deeper economic ties. On visa liberalization, we welcome the progress made. Honoring our agreement of last year, the European Union and Russia have been negotiating the common steps towards a visa-free regime since April, and we have made some progress. We are also pleased by the launch of a migration dialogue in May, which will contribute to finding solutions for shared migration issues. We also took stock of progress in negotiations on Russia's WTO accession, which is a further key to successful modernization. we believe that Russia WTO accession is still possible this year. But for this to be possible, Russia and the European Union will engage in sustained discussions over the coming weeks with a view to reach an agreement at political level before the summer holidays, including on issues like the mid-tariff rate quotas, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, and investment regime for the automotive industry. We also spoke about our energy matters. In fact, there has been progress in the energy dialogue. I stress that the reliable and rules-based energy framework remains a key priority. It enhances predictability and sustainability, which are common interests. In the light of recent developments and following the discussions we also had at the G8 in Deauville on nuclear safety, I can tell you that we are happy that Russia and the European Union agreed to work within the IAEA to revise the International Convention on Nuclear Safety and adopt stringent safety standards. As you know, the European Union just started to work on stress testing of its nuclear plants, and we discussed ways how Russia can also commit to this process. Regarding this issue of the vegetables, we are happy that we have agreed that the ban of vegetables from the European Union will be lifted, that the system of certification of the vegetable safety by the European Commission will be put in place without any delay, and details of the certificate will be finalized as soon as possible between the Russia Federation services and the European Commission services. So I could go on in many other areas because it's indeed a very broad agenda, the agenda we have between Russia and the European Union. But my point is clear. We are delivering on that agenda. Our discussions and the excellent atmosphere in which they took place show that our partnership is bearing fruit. Like trusted friends, we speak frankly and constructively, including topics on there may be some differences, because our interdependence is really a reality. So once again, let me very sincerely thank President Medvedev and our hosts, not only for the kind hospitality, but also for the spirit of the talks we had that were indeed important for the progress in our very good relationship.
Dear colleagues, ready to take your questions, two questions from the Russian media, two questions from the European media. TV channel Russia. First question to you. Good day, Russia TV channel. Pavel Zarubin. Yesterday you had an informal dinner. Today, working lunch. Did you eat any vegetables? What vegetables did you eat? And were you scared eating them? And bearing in mind that had Russia not banned vegetables from Europe, had you been served vegetables from Europe, Mr. Barroso, would you eat them? And my question, I understand you discussed the ban of supply of vegetables to Russia. You said that you managed to agree. Could you be more detailed on the modalities of the agreement? Who are you asking a question? Everybody. Everybody who had vegetables yesterday or today. We did have vegetables yesterday and today. Just now, over lunch, we had tomatoes, different tomatoes. I don't know source of origin, but let's live and see. Indeed, we did speak about the matter, since it is topical, and there is very, practical commercial dimension. President Barroso just explained the modalities, our future steps, and what he said is really precise information. We spoke about resuming supplies of European vegetables to the Russian market. We are ready with guarantees of competent European Union services to resume supplies. For that, in the nearest future, Russian experts, you're well familiar with popular figures in this country for well-known reasons, and their European colleagues will finalize details of certificate that guarantees safety of products supplied to the Russian market. So we'll do exactly this. I think it's a good result.
I can just confirm.
A few words about vegetables.
I can just confirm what President Medvedev just said. In fact, our teams agreed that the ban of vegetables from the European Union will be lifted. A system of certification of the vegetable safety by the European Commission will be put in place without any delay, and details of the certification will be finalized as soon as possible between the Federation of Russia and the European Commission services. We intend, in fact, to send these certificates today or tomorrow, if you want to be more precise. Today or tomorrow, we intend to send these certificates to our Russian partners.
Thank you. I can imagine that there are other problems in the world than the vegetables. So I think there is a question about the Eurozone. I think the lady of Bloomberg will ask a question about that.
I have a question to Mr. Van Rompuy, Bloomberg News Corner, Lubov. There appears to be a split on the second bailout package for Greece. And how confident are you that an agreement will be reached by June 24 meeting? What kind of compromise can we expect? And also, how disastrous will it be if this agreement isn't reached? How will it affect the Eurozone? Thank you.
Thank you. We are working at different levels on a package. First of all, in Greece, on a package on measures correcting the fiscal slippage of 2011. And that is a rather important effort of about around 3% of GDP, after the big efforts the Greek government already made in 2010 of around 5% of GDP. Greek government is also working with the European Commission, with the European Central Bank and with the IMF on a new program for the upcoming 3 years, so to strengthen fiscal consolidation and to implement all the targets set forward a year ago. So we are correcting the slippage and we are working on a new program in Greece. We are also working on some form of private sector involvement, creating no default or no credit event. And we are working on additional European financial means for Greece. So we are working on all this. This is not an easy exercise, but as in the past, we will have a positive outcome. And we will reach agreement by the end of the month. If you ask me if you are confident, my answer is yes, I'm confident, because we are working on it. And of course, you mentioned some tensions. That's completely normal in such a delicate and difficult exercise, but the outcome will be positive by the end of the month.
Just wanted to add 2 words. We wish our European partners to be as successful as possible in this endeavor, because Europe is our strategic partner. European Union is, and the state of affairs in Eurozone largely determines our success in a number of our internal domestic goals. That's why I told our European Union partners that we're closely following those processes, and we hope that all the difficulties that are there today will be resolved ultimately. And we are still going to be pursuing the dual currency basket policy. Euro is in the basket, so it is not an abstract issue for us, it's very specific. Kommersant newspaper, don't forget to tell us who your question goes to. Colleague from the first row. Kommersant newspaper, my question goes to Dmitry Anatolievich, and Sub-question to Mr. Van Rompuy. Last December, we witnessed very successful summit. Advancements were made towards visa-free regime, WTO accession. I hope that next summit, December this year in Brussels, will be no less successful. So far, we're stuck in between. So, Dmitry Anatolyevich, what are the core issues of the step-by-step plan that are not yet finalized? Where do our positions diverge? Are you referring to the visa or the WTO? The visa plan, but same has to do with WTO. What are the main groups of issues that are to be finalized? My question to Mr. Van Rompuy. And 2011, election campaign will be launched in Russia, and as you know, in every country, during election, it's more difficult for foreign partners to find agreements with local authorities. Are you confident that you'll be able to finalize WTO negotiations by the end of 2011? Thank you. So, as regards WTO and visas, well, the state of the two matters is different. On WTO, we've been trying to find agreement with our partners for 17 years. We're sick and tired of it, and every year we hope to finalize negotiations. Last year was quite successful. We managed to formalize our arrangements with Europeans and US, which was difficult at certain stages. European friends helped us a lot this year, all in all. So far, has not resulted in a breakthrough, although, in my view, there are minor issues left to resolve, so I called upon our European Union partners to complete negotiations within the forthcoming months, so that by the end of the year, we could start the signing procedure of all documents needed for Russia's accession to the WTO. I'll be frank with you, chances are very high, but it will all depend on how well we hear each other. As I said on a number of occasions, Russian Federation definitely needs membership in the WTO, but being frank, our partners who are members of the WTO need that just as much as we do, because they oftentimes complain that certain rules in Russia, for some reasons, are different from that of the WTO. For that reason, these or that economic process go differently that they would want to. Working conditions are different. There are more things they're unhappy with, but let us turn the page. Let us start working on other matters. As regards visas, the situation is different in some ways. We are just moving towards visa-free space. As pragmatic persons, we understand that we cannot achieve that in a year or two, but we need to formulate specific goals. I'm satisfied with our advancement. Moreover, last year I was even less optimistic because with our partners we move along two tracks. First is we try to facilitate as much as possible visa regime so that a number of groups of Russian citizens, those that travel on official missions, or students, or other groups of people, would be entitled to facilitated visa regime or visa-free regime, like what we're striving to do for those living in Kaliningrad. Citizens of Kaliningrad can travel basically visa-free on the basis of special documents. They will be able to do that if we agree with our partners. And similar rights are given to the neighboring part of Poland. But I think chances are very high that we will be able to find agreement. We're very close to reaching agreement. So the second track would be full-fledged visa-free regime, visa-free travels, and in that sense, we advance on the basis of a plan. We're finalizing it, and by end of June, we're supposed to finalize it, agree upon it. What's good about it is that it provides for certain steps that are to bring us to that result. And I hope that by the end of the June, we are able to finalize the plan. So we are advancing forward, which is very good. Second question was for Mr. Van Rompuy. I often answer similar questions, but now over to you.
If I understood you rightly, you're asking me if the electoral agenda will influence the negotiations on WTO membership. Yeah, that was your question. This membership is independent from an electoral agenda. It is too important for the European Union and for Russia to let it depend on an electoral agenda. And I'm quite confident that it is not the case. So we go further with a strong political will, certainly from the Russian side, but also from our side, to see a membership by the end of the year of Russia to this very important international agency. And I can only say that I felt during last evening and this morning, that this political will is really, really present. And we are obliged to have a success.
And finally, there was a question on energy policy by Reuters, I believe, for President Barroso.
Good afternoon, Reuters News here. My question goes to Mr. Barroso. Have you discussed the third energy package during the summit, and are there any advances? Have your positions moved closer, and is there any chance that the European restrictions on Russia's participation in its gas infrastructure could be lifted in the nearest future? Thank you.
No, first of all, yes, we discussed this issue. But let me tell you that our rules are non-discriminatory. The same European Union rules apply to all. And the European Union legislation, the so-called third energy package of 2009, that is now legislation approved by the European Union, seeks to improve the functioning of our internal market on gas and electricity. And that its aim is precisely to set a reliable, transparent, rule-based framework for all investors and all operators. The new rules ensure full effective network access and the proper functioning of open integrated markets. So unbundling, the issue that has been sometimes controversial, unbundling applies to all companies, be they European or foreign, because we need a level playing field. This, I think, also creates more opportunities for investment. It's a more predictable investment. So a company that is not from the European Union knows that when it comes to Europe, in all the 27 member states, there are some common rules. And I think this predictability is good for investment, namely in energy that, as you know, sometimes these are very long-term investments, very capital-intensive investments. So our rules, the rules of the world's largest internal market, will be applied. At the same time, because the Russian partners have expressed to us several times some concerns about the way it is implemented in some of our member states, we are ready to find pragmatic solutions to specific issues, as we have done, for instance, in Poland, where there was a discussion between Poland and investors coming from Russia. The Commission was participating actively in those consultations, and at the end, a good solution was found. So this is what I can tell you, and this is, in fact, a clear demonstration of one thing that I've highlighted today once more in this summit. Russia and the European Union need each other in the energy field. Russia is our most important partner in this field, and it will remain the most important partner. So what we have is to create conditions on both sides of predictability to facilitate investment, and that's exactly the way we are acting.
2 words, if I may, since it is indeed an important topic for our countries. We are negotiating mutually beneficial implementation of the third energy package, impact to our energy relations, and has been impacting it for many years already. What matters most for us, for the Russian Federation, implementation of the relevant resolution of the European Union, European Council, should not create negative impact for Russian investors, just like my colleague mentioned just now, nor for European citizens, citizens of European member states, because we need to think of what's to happen on the European markets, not just bluntly implement previously taken decisions. In that respect, I believe we need to continue consultations, and the ultimate goal of those should be elaborating mutually beneficial approaches. Indeed, we have a number of concerns in that respect, but what's important is to make sure that those concerns are heard and are responded. We should not turn blind eye to them, and I hope that we'll continue such dialogue with our European Union partners. And in conclusion of today's discussion, I would like to thank, on behalf of all the participants of the summit, on behalf of the Russian delegation, I would like to thank Nizhny Novgorod for the warm hospitality that was extended to us here.